You don't still want this. You know that. But you keep holding on to the job, the relationship, the routine. Not because it fits, but because you don't know who you are without it. It's not love. It's not loyalty. It's fear. You're not scared of letting go. You're scared of being back at the beginning, with nothing certain, nothing proven, nothing to point to. But here's the truth you keep avoiding. Letting go doesn't set you back. It sets you free. The only reason you're stuck is because you think walking away erases everything you've built, as if starting from zero means failure, as if you'd be admitting the last few years were a waste. They weren't. Everything that brought you here mattered, even if it ends, even if you leave. But when you believe that letting go resets your worth, you start holding on too tightly to things that don't make sense anymore. You stay in jobs that drain you. You keep friendships that feel hollow. You force relationships that haven't felt alive in years. You stay not because you want to, but because you don't trust what happens when you stop pretending this works. And it's not always obvious. It shows up quietly. You make excuses for why you're still figuring it out. You stay busy enough to avoid clarity. You tell yourself it's safer to wait until the right time, like clarity is something that arrives with a calendar alert. But deep down, you feel it. The tension, the dull ache, the way your energy dips every time you have to be who this version of your life requires you to be. You keep overriding that feeling, and each time you do, it costs you something. Your peace, your alignment, your voice. You tell yourself, I can't start over. I've already put too much in. I've come too far to let it all go. But if where you've arrived doesn't feel right, then too far is just another way to describe how long you've been avoiding the truth. Staying isn't strength. Staying isn't commitment. Staying, when the truth is clear, is fear. Fear of empty space. Fear of silence. Fear of having to rebuild without applause, without a blueprint, without someone else validating that it was the right decision. But that fear, that's the threshold. That's the moment you either make your life smaller to protect your comfort, or let it open up into something unknown and honest. Most people shrink, not because they're weak, but because they're tired. Tired of the fight it takes to break a pattern. Tired of being the one who always has to rebuild. Tired of carrying all the weight of what happens next. So they settle. They find language to justify it. They call it loyalty, or maturity, or patience. But really, it's just fear dressed up to look responsible. And slowly they lose pieces of themselves until there's nothing left but a life they're managing, not living. But that doesn't have to be you. Not if you're willing to see the truth. You're not at zero. You're at a crossroad. And if you can sit still long enough to stop justifying what no longer fits, you'll start to feel it clearly. The life you've been protecting isn't the one you want to keep living. No one talks about how hard it is to let go when something's fine. Not terrible, not toxic, just not right. It's easy to leave when something breaks you. But what about when it just quietly dulls you? When the job looks good on paper, but your soul's been numb for months? When the relationship has no drama, but also no pulse? When the habits aren't destructive, but they're slowly killing your momentum? That's harder, because you don't get a clean excuse. You don't get to point to one big event and say, that's why I left. Instead, you have to leave because something inside you just knows. And that kind of exit is terrifying, because it means trusting a whisper more than the noise of your own history. It means breaking your own pattern. It means risking comfort for something that hasn't promised you anything yet. And the mind hates that. The mind wants certainty. It wants logic, proof, strategy. It wants to know exactly what happens after you let go. But life doesn't work like that. Sometimes clarity only shows up after you choose. Sometimes the answers don't come until your hands are actually empty. But that's the work, to unlearn the idea that security equals truth. Because a lot of what feels safe is actually just familiar pain. And a lot of what scares you is unfamiliar freedom. Letting go won't ruin you. It will reveal you. It will show you what you were never meant to carry. It will introduce you to the version of yourself that doesn't need to keep earning their right to exist, but only if you let it. You say you're tired, but it's not exhaustion from doing too much. It's exhaustion from living too small, from dragging your past into every new season, from holding on to identities that don't fit anymore. That's what really drains you, being loyal to a life that's quietly asking to be released. You've spent so much time surviving that you forgot what it means to make decisions from vision, not fear. But that shift has to come from you. No one's going to clear the path. No one's going to come tap you on the shoulder and tell you it's time to change. That's your job. And the first move, stop lying to yourself. Stop calling it not that bad. Stop calling it still working on it. Stop calling it just a phase. Start calling it what it is: over, outgrown, expired, and then give yourself permission to leave without needing a full plan, without having every piece figured out, without waiting for pain to make the decision for you. Because if you need the world to collapse before you make a move, you'll spend your life waiting on wreckage. Sometimes maturity is walking away quietly before the damage. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is end something without waiting for it to break you. You don't owe anyone the version of you who settled. You don't owe your past the rest of your future. And you don't owe comfort the rest of your life. It's not about being fearless. It's about choosing what matters more, your comfort or your alignment. Because at some point, you stop asking, what if I let go? And you start asking, what is it costing me to stay? That's where the shift happens. Not in a motivational surge, not in a dramatic exit, just a clear moment of truth that doesn't let you unsee what you've seen. That the longer you grip what doesn't fit, the longer you delay what could be building in its place. No one tells you this, but there's no clean way to let go. There's no version of this that doesn't come with fear or sadness or grief over what could have been. Even when you're doing the right thing, it still hurts to close the chapter. It still feels like failure, because we're wired to equate endings with loss. But endings are also alignment. Endings are clarity. Endings are boundaries. Endings are power. And the part of you that's been whispering quietly, asking for space, asking for relief, asking to move, that part is ready. You just have to get quiet enough to hear it and brave enough to answer it. So you take the step. Maybe small, maybe slow, but it's a real step, not just a thought, not just another list in your phone, an actual decision. You tell the truth. You stop defending what drains you. You stop apologizing for needing change. You stop waiting for permission. You let the relationship end. You stop forcing the career that's hollow. You back away from the version of you that's been performing peace but feeling chaos. And yes, you'll lose things. Maybe people, maybe a sense of identity, maybe the image you've held onto for too long. But you'll gain something else: space, clarity, a life that actually reflects who you've become. And in that space, something returns, not instantly, not loudly, but it returns. Your peace, your energy, your direction, your self-respect. Because nothing is heavier than the weight of pretending, and nothing is lighter than finally letting go of what you never truly needed. This isn't about walking away from everything. It's about no longer betraying yourself to stay. And if that means starting from zero, then let it. Let it be the clean break. Let it be the new page. Let it be the version of you who builds forward, not out of fear, but from truth. You've held on long enough. Now let go. Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to stop settling. You're not starting over. You're starting clean.